Hold on. What's Double Dragon the Rosetta Stone? Do you learn? Do you learn in that?
Yeah, it's a language. It's a language game. Welcome to New Game Plus. This is a retro gaming podcast where three guys spend 7 days playing one old game and then we talk about it. My name is Dustin.
My name is Kenny.
My name is Nolan.
And this is episode 394. Question of the week. What was your biggest gaming disappointment?
Me first.
Oh!
I have one immediately.
What is it?
Fallout 4.
How did I know you were going to say that?
Did you?
Well, I was with you
Yeah.
spiritually in that era when you were the biggest Fallout fan. You got me into Fallout.
I love that series still.
You loved 3, you loved Vegas, and then you were so pumped for 4. I think I watched you play it initially.
Yes, and here's the thing. That game is fun, and it's fun.
Yes.
And I could still go back to it and find enjoyment.
Yes.
It's just not at all what I wanted or expected. That game felt like they focused so much on polish and modernizing this franchise that all the other quirks and just charm that the series had up until that point kind of got put. It was there, but it was put in the back burner. I don't love the engine that they went with on it. A number of things that I was just like playing the game when it came out, and I was like, I'm having fun. I'm having fun. And another thing was
it's a question.
Coming off of New Vegas, which Bethesda did not develop, Obsidian did. That game is my favorite Fallout game of all time, and one of the better RPG, like first-person shooter RPGs. Still, I want to play it right now, and so that was probably a bad primer for Fallout 4, but it was Fallout 4.
Good answer, Kenny.
There's so many. Gaming is
there's so many
rife with the potential for disappointment. Yes. Instead of talking a big release that didn't live up to its hype, though, I'm gonna just say the fact that Nolan and I sort of tried to get you to play Diablo 2 and it didn't take.
Because playing with y'all was miserable, but also your biggest gaming disappointment is me. Is what you're saying.
That game, Kenny, is fantastic.
I miss having regular, beyond just occasional retro moments of gaming together.
That's not an answer.
That's a great answer.
It's a Kenny answer.
Should we all play Rocket League together?
That would be my greatest gaming appointment if y'all were to play Rocket League with me. One of the greatest games of all time.
I'm not good enough at that game for you guys to put up with playing
but
with
it's
me.
Funny.
And Nolan gets too mad too quickly. Yeah. And Dustin tries too hard. That's not the game to play.
But I laugh so hard when all three of us play that game.
We do have fun.
Have got a joke answer and I've got a real answer.
What's the joke answer?
Okay. Give us the joke answer twice.
And by joke answer, it's also a real answer, to be honest. But Spyro Orange.
Yeah. Recent episode on the podcast.
Recent episode, I was hoping for a redemption arc and got the worst present.
Dude,
with Spyro
that is the
Orange.
worst possible Spyro game we could have pulled for that.
Yeah, I think it's the worst possible Spyro game, and it was on Game Boy Color. No, sorry,
Advance.
It was on GBA, which is I was just
kind of breaks your GBA.
That was a double whammy
you
for
love
you.
That console.
I got really disappointed.
You found out the console bleeds,
but this is also probably not going to be a surprise to many people. But probably my biggest gaming disappointment was Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Okay, I knew it would be an Assassin's Creed. I didn't know which one.
They had already begun deviating from the traditional Assassin's Creed before Valhalla, but I had religiously played each game as they released and loved the history in the world. And I was already skeptical about Valhalla for a few reasons. One, Vikings weren't the thing that I was most interested in that history. And then secondarily, they were going even more RPG than kind of action adventure kind of story based.
They should have done spin-off games that were more like that, like RPGs, and the main line should have remained core AC2 style.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, you know that a new one releases in a month's time, and it is the
I know they
traditional
said
formula. No, I believe it 100%. I'm all in. I'm all in.
On God?
Everything that I've seen, it feels
Okay.
and I almost said looks like, in some ways looks like the very first Assassin's Creed, like so traditional.
Okay.
So I've got high hopes.
I'll
If
pray
they're
for you.
crushed, I'll answer Mirage, Assassin's Creed Mirage
Right.
on this one next
will
time.
become your new
my
biggest
goodness.
disappointment.
Yeah. If you want to be a part of the conversation and let us know what your biggest disappointment is, what can they do, Kenny?
I mean, there's a lot of options.
What's
No.
one
The
specific
way to
thing?
disappoint us the least is to hop in Discord. We've got a dedicated channel talking about the question of the week, and we'd love for you to jump in there and let us know your biggest gaming disappointment, because you're going to find an amazing community of people that can sympathize and empathize with all of the things you're feeling right now. Come join us.
Nolan, what's our Discord link?
Discord.gg/New Game
Plus. Ooh, twins. Like in our retro game of the week, Double Dragon 5, The Shadow Falls.
I hate it so much.
Overview.
Double Dragon 5, The Shadow Falls is a 1994 video game for the Super Nintendo and for the Sega Genesis. It was developed by Leland Interactive Media.
Who's Leland?
No one knows. And
Literally.
it was published by Trade West. This is a continuation of the beloved Double Dragon series and franchise
Sort of.
by the beliked Double Dragon series.
Oh, I mean, it's sort of a continuation.
All right,
That
look.
is what I'm leading
Beliked.
us to, because whereas the series is known for fairly good to really good side-scrolling beat-em-ups,
Yes.
this is not that.
They should have stayed in one of their lanes. Huh?
Well, who? Because Leland Interactive Media weren't the ones that developed the original games. This
No.
was a different company that Double Dragon owners. Who is that? Jimmy and
Not
are-
Leland.
Well, no, it's not Leland. I think it's
Jaguar?
twins, Billy and Jimmy. I think they own it.
Yeah, they've got a majority stake.
They were like, "Hey, you haven't done anything before. Do something."
Well, no, hold on. Leland Corporation, I just found out, did John Elway's quarterback in 89, Dragon's Lair 2, Time Warp in 91.
So I do know that they actually. So we played Dragon's Lair a while back. They
The first one?
created the engine maybe for some of those like visual game experiences.
Okay.
But had no experience with Double Dragon and had no experience with the genre that this game is, a fighting game. So rather than having a side-scrolling beat 'em up, this is your traditional, and we'll reference it a number of times in this episode probably. This is a clone, a copy of Street Fighter 2, which had come out just recently.
Rip off.
Oh, you coughed?
Yeah, sorry.
Sneezed?
Yeah,
Burped?
it's a rip off of that.
A lot of games around, a lot of companies around this time saw the success that Street Fighter 2 was bringing.
Sure.
And they said, we too can do that.
They said,
Yeah,
"Oh, word?"
Generally speaking, if you see someone being successful and making money, you want to be like them.
Or you want to make your own thing, like, I don't know, Tekken, Mortal Kombat. That's just me, though.
Or you want to be the very best like no one ever was?
That's how you make money.
Pokemon fighting. Well, they do have Pokken tournament now.
Ooh. So this is the last Double Dragon game to be released on the Super Nintendo. Put that in your back
Say
pocket.
that again?
This is the last Double Dragon game that was
Okay.
released on the Super Nintendo.
Unfortunate.
And it was based on the 1993 Double D animated series.
Right, which Kenny didn't talk about last week.
Right.
Talked about
I
something
didn't.
else.
Kenny talked about a live action Double D.
There is a live action movie, and I went back and started watching it this week. I didn't get all the way through it because let me tell you, it's a lot.
Is it not good? I mean,
No.
How
it's
long is
so bad.
How long do you have to sit
It's so
there?
bad that I don't even know how Kid Me liked it, and Kid Me liked terrible things.
That is
Do you
so
want-
bizarre.
to know what I did in a similar vein this past week.
Did you watch some of the cartoon?
I watched the opening episode, the full episode of the cartoon that this game was based on.
Okay, how was it?
Not good.
All right.
So the series only lasted 2 seasons, I believe. It was a very short run. It was syndicated, of course. I think it's it feels like one of those Sunday morning, what do people say? Saturday morning cartoons?
Saturday.
But I don't think it made it to Saturday morning. I think they probably played it like on a Tuesday night or maybe
Tuesday night.
or something like that. It's not bad. I've seen worse, but it's also not good.
Do you want to know what I did this week?
Yeah, if it involves Double Dragon Media, we want to know. If it doesn't, we don't care.
I went to the gym, and I actually did watch a cartoon on TikTok. I got in this rabbit hole of this account that posts clips from Speed Racer. Racer cartoon.
Speed Racer was great.
Wild. That cartoon was wild. Anyways.
I'm sure we've got at least one Speed Racer game on the Retro Master list. We've never played one, though.
We should have played it.
Ooh.
Oh, okay. Before I tell the story, what is our collective experience with this series? Have we played any on the podcast? If so, it's been a while, but I don't know if we have.
I was hoping you would tell me.
We'd played one.
I don't think we have.
No, we played a Streets of Rage game, not a Double Dragon game. I sometimes get them confused.
Reasonably so.
That's fair. I have never played Double Dragon the beat 'em up. I
Not
played
any
Streets
of
Rage.
them?
No.
Wow.
For real?
For real. I know. I missed them. I don't know.
They were always interesting to me. I haven't played them extensively, but growing up, that would be a rental every once in a while.
One of them, I forget which. I think the second one, but one of the core Double Dragon beat 'em ups is one like in my NES collection. Played it, had it as a kid. Like it's pretty core for me.
I think the one I had the most experience with was Battletoads and Double Dragon did a crossover.
Oh.
And I was more on the Battletoads side growing up, and so when I saw them partnering up, I was like, I gotta play that.
Interesting. Was it like a combo game or something? It was like 2-in-1, or was it like an actual a
crossover. They're fighting together. They're both side scrolling together, so you can have play 2 players, one person be a twin and the other person be a different twin of a
frog.
Yeah, frog. Okay,
Toad. It's a toad.
They're the same thing.
Okay, well now we're getting angry emails coming in this week.
But also,
thanks a lot.
Nolan, you went through science classes. You were about to be a scientist. You know that they're not the
Never
same.
dissected one.
Oh, really?
So I don't know.
In college, and y'all know what college I went to. I
they have
dissected
the same
a frog
private parts.
there. Don't we all?
No.
Okay.
As frogs.
All right, so the story
not.
of Double Dragon v. The Shadow Falls is related in some way to the show, but a little bit different. So here in the game, the Shadow Master, he's bad, has created a deadly virus that he plans to unleash on Metro City.
COVID-19.
And as one of the brothers, you must defeat the Shadow Warriors and stop the virus from being unleashed.
That's exactly what happened.
But that's
in our time.
I mean, that's only the story if you play as good guys in the story mode. Don't you get a whole alternate bad guy story mode as well?
Don't say a whole alternate. It's fairly close. If you're one of the baddies, you must compete to become the Shadow Master's new second in command in order to get drugs out into the city. Like it's connected.
Gameplay.
I want to say that I think Street Fighter is easy to copy. Street Fighter in its presentation is
Is easy to copy or easy to copy well?
Easy to copy.
Okay.
Because Street Fighter's not that... I mean, I think most people listening to this know Street Fighter and have probably even played the ones on NES, right? I mean, on SNES and in the arcade. And it's a very simple 2D fighter on the surface. And Double Dragon 5, The Shadow Falls, I think, looked at the surface of Street Fighter and said, yeah, doable. And that's kind of where you start here with this one, because where Street Fighter has Ryu and Ken, they did the same thing. They gave you Jimmy and whatever the other one's name is, Lemmy. And they are just the same guy with different hair color. So it's so similar. We said it earlier, but like it's hard to not call this a weak attempt at copying Street Fighter 2.
We can't call that piece of this franchise a knockoff of Street Fighter 2. There are a lot of things that we can point out and say, yes, they just knocked off Street Fighter 2, but they had the twins in the canon of Double Dragon long before they decided, let's move away from being a beat-em-up game to being a fighter.
I've never played Double Dragon.
Whose
Well, that's
fault
fair,
is
but
that?
that doesn't change the fact that they were
Theirs for
already
not
there.
making it more enticing. No, this is kind of unfortunate that this is my first exposure to this
That is unfortunate.
I'm worried for your sense of this whole franchise, because it's a loved franchise generally, and for pretty good reason.
Yeah, but the thing that's remarkable here is that they didn't base this game off of the franchise, off of the games that people already knew and loved. Of course, there's some relation with the twins and maybe one other character, but all of the other, the look, the feel, the enemy characters, all of those are strictly at this day and time of the release from the animated show. So,
which is based on what?
Yeah, but no one watched the show. I mean, I say that. The reference point's not the show, Kenny. It's supposed to be the game series, according to you.
No, I'm saying the reference point for this game is absolutely the show, but the show came from the fact that the earlier games exist.
Maybe you're not following me, or you don't care. But yes, of course, I said there is some relation. But all of the enemies, they are from the show, not from the previous games. They even pretty much reskinned some of the key core characters from previous games and just made them different things. So like, if you had played the games, the only connection you're going to have to this game coming into it is that, oh, here's Jimmy and Lemmy, the two twin brothers.
Quit calling him Lemmy.
No,
Billy is even more stereotypical as a name for this kind of character. It makes fun of itself better than you trying to knock it off.
It's Jimmy and Billy.
Billy.
Which is so bad.
Why?
It's just like the most phoned in possible names for
Can I tell you,
set of brothers.
You know what? We're talking about the show. Brief excursion. Spoiler alert. If you don't want to be spoiled on the 93 first episode of Double Dragon, then don't listen.
All right, tell us.
They're twins, but they're split up at birth. And one of them is raised by the oldest dragon, that's the guy's name, and trained up to be a good dragon warrior.
Jimmy.
The other one is missing for years and years and years until one day he comes knocking at the door and he's like, I need your help. Well, it turns out that he's like, I need your help to defeat the Shadow Lord. And so they work together. And here's the twist. The other twin was the Shadow Lord the whole time.
Dude, that's the plot of Mad Men. You ever see that show?
So Mad Men
That's the plot of Mad Men.
from Double
the Shadow
Dragon.
Lord.
Yes.
Yes. So, all I'm saying is that was more intriguing than the story and what was happening here in the game.
Okay. Who'd you main? Let's just talk about that. There are many characters here.
This is not this kind of game.
Who did you main? I'll tell you mine.
Okay.
Bones.
You go for the weirdest looking character? Is that what you?
He reminded me of Yoshimitsu. Yeah. In this game, yeah, I was here to make this as enjoyable as possible, so I chose Bones.
Just if you're listening to this, just imagine what that enemy character is, and you got it.
In his skull.
And in his boots. I've got I tried a variety of different characters. I did end up with one of the brothers. I don't think it matters which. Oh no, I ended up with with Billy, the blue robed.
Yeah.
Where you're pretty
Jimmy's
much
red.
rocking with Ryu and Ken, by the way.
Yeah.
So that's the two brothers. I went with Billy. That's who I ended up with. Kenny?
Our story is exactly the same. I dabbled with a number of people just to get a sense of some different characters, and then decided I want to just play the default character to kind of like get that experience, and blue.
You have 10 characters unlocked at the beginning of the game. By beating the game in certain modes, you can unlock 2 additional enemy end-game characters to play as well. So there are 12 characters total.
My next question is, since y'all have played it, are the movesets like at all familiar to the original series, because if I'm not mistaken, the original series is just punching and kicking. Just generic punches and kicks. Or does he sling his body in a spiral?
No, I mean there's more to it than that, but there's no way to directly just take like one of these early brawler type games and 100% put all of your movesets here. So no.
What I can communicate to you and what I've tried is that this game is not based off of the rest of the video game series.
So why call it Double Dragon 5?
I think
that's a main title.
I mean, Kenny is rubbing 4 of his fingers with his thumb in a sense of money.
World's smallest violin.
World's smallest violin.
No.
And
give me that cash.
I believe at this time, again, the owners of the franchise were licensing it out to anyone and everyone that wanted to. This is not the only Double Dragon game that is so different than the rest. But also, I don't think this is a bad idea. Other franchises have crossed over. It's hard, but it can be done.
I agree. It is risky. It makes sense. Your characters are actiony characters that do fighting kinds of things. If I get why you would be tempted to, but I also get why it's risky and how much care you need to make in like doing that reimagining of the sort of core of what your series is about, and that was the note that they missed.
I disagree. I don't like it when companies did this. I don't like the idea of taking what works and trying to dip your toes into another genre and not make sure it's perfect, and also put a main number on it. 5.
Are you about to say Smash?
Yeah, big old Smash fan, and he hates the idea of taking characters from other games and putting them in a fighter.
Second of all, that's not the same thing. Smash Brothers was a brand new IP that took...
The concept is sort of the same.
No. That's like taking Zelda and making a Zelda fighting game. Or like taking Zelda and making a Dynasty Warriors game, Hyrule Warriors. That game sucks. I think that game sucks because it doesn't work. Don't take... Look.
We just played a fighting game that has a link in it, 2. So people do it.
No, taking a character and putting it in a game that's already meant to be a fighting game is different than taking a series that is not a fighting game and then making it a fighting game or making it any other kind of game. I think it's a risk, and it rarely works well. And like, don't call it 5. I'm mad at this. Call it Double Dragon Fighter. Call it Double Dragon and the Shadow Falls. This is like you're playing 1, 2, 3, 4. You're like, dude, this series rules. And then you get to 5 and you're like, what were they thinking?
Especially kids renting it growing up. You're going through the series, right? 1, 2, 3, super, whatever. And then you come to 5 and it's a totally different game. They don't care. They're wanting to make money. Yeah. To Kenny's point. And so they're, of course, going to put the 5 on there to keep it a part of the franchise. But I agree. It should have been called Double Dragon Fighter Z or something entirely different to communicate that this is a totally different game.
Yeah. Let's talk about when you jump into the game and start playing what your experience is going to be. Because, Dustin, we get to watch you play this week. You did our first play, and you kind of got wrecked.
Did it get better?
Yeah, when I turned it to easy, yes.
It's overtuned, the game. It's
overtuned?
Yes. What do you mean?
I don't... Well, as opposed to undertuned?
Yeah. As opposed to balanced correctly. Out the gate, the game is too... Like, it's too good. The AI's too strong.
The game, you can tell very quickly, in my opinion, look, I don't have much knowledge when it comes to fighter games, but it feels like a group of people that don't know fighting games made a fighter game.
Yeah.
And you learn that right away. The AI, the enemy AI, blocks so much that you can't, and it's not one of those games where even if they're blocking, you do a little bit of damage. If they're blocking, you don't do any damage.
even if you do hit them, they feel like a little bit of a damage sponge.
Yeah.
I feel, and I could be wrong, but my suspicion, and we'll talk about this,
right.
is that under the hood, we find out that your characters have some specific stats. My suspicion is that the AI difficulty level isn't really changing like how well the AI plays, but just tweaking some of those strength numbers on the characters you're playing with. But I don't think they lower or possibly even raise their defensive stat, because I can hit them once and I feel like it does very, very little. They hit me once in the exact same way on default settings, and I felt like my character took a lot more damage. They just felt very damage spongy. I don't know why, and maybe my reasoning on how isn't accurate. It might be a whole different sort of system of how they do difficulty. No. But they were weirdly hard to kill.
Yeah, and I think you're right. It felt to me that when you change difficulty, HP is heavily altered and underlying damage values are heavily altered. It's like the laziest way to... I mean, it's effective. If it's due, I put it on easy and it gets easier. But there's more to it than that with the fighting game. Like you're saying, Dustin, this felt like it was made by noobs that don't know about fighting games.
It doesn't... Look, I don't know about Under the Hood. Again, I've gotten very little experience with fighting games. I just know about the feel. And for me, it felt wrong, because like if you're trying, I feel like you do worse than if you're just punching over and over again. Like I feel like you can get further by just doing the same move over and over again, and if that's the case, that's not good design for a fighting game.
No.
Although presentationally this is presented like any other fighter. So let me kind of just like throw out a few things of like what you're seeing, what you're experiencing, because you immediately have 4 game modes, I guess. You've got your tournament mode, which is just kind of your heads up thing. You've got versus, which is 2-player. You've got quest, which I think is probably where we spent the majority of our time. It's basically tournament mode with just a little bit of story in between.
Sure.
Still screens with a little bit of text. And then you've got demo mode, I think, which is that just...
Doesn't count.
Watching them play. But Quest is basically tournament, little story in between. You've got the good guy's story, the bad guy's story, and you're just fighting increasingly more difficult bosses along the way.
Here's one thing you didn't mention. And I think they call it different things, but like a playground mode, a practice mode. A lot of fighters include this. I need it when I'm not good at... I mean, I do. I'm not good at fighters, and I wanted to learn some of the combos. Wanted to feel... I mean, there are...
No, there's not combos. There are a few special moves.
Yeah, there's special moves that you got to trigger by doing specific key inputs. That's a combo.
Like combinations.
It's not... No, you're right. You're right. It's different things. It's not like chained hits and a whole scoring system. But there are special moves that you're doing by inputting specific keys. And I wanted to practice those. I wanted to learn them. I wanted to show them to tell me what they were in game. I know back in the day you had the booklet, but like, that's a problem.
I'm not going to praise them for including that. I think, and honestly, if any game needs that, it's Street Fighter. Like this game... There's no reason to practice. I'll just tell you right now, Kenny. There's no reason.
I agree.
I needed it.
No, you don't, because in Street Fighter you have actual strings and actual combos that you can confirm and that you bait out. And if you land a punch, okay, I know what move to throw out now to get a true combo, and it tells you. This one is literally just mashing and hoping that you win, and sure, they put special moves in because the people were like, oh yeah, fighting games have special moves,
have
so
special
moves.
That in.
In
but that's all they knew about that. They didn't know like the technicalities behind it. Kenny, I agree with you in the sense that like I love when there is a mode like that when it's needed. Soul Calibur 2 I thought had the best practice mode where you could pull up the move set, you could do it, you could watch it, all of those
I don't
things.
care if there's even not a practice mode. I want to be able to learn the things I need to learn to enjoy the game without just playing it for hours and happening to stumble across a move that I could do. And I know we're playing it in 2023. There's booklets. The internet exists. I can go look that stuff up. It's still a problem.
It doesn't matter if you had the booklet back in the day, unfortunately. The booklet is good. It's comic book style, which is somewhat interesting, although there's not much of a story being told. But in the dossiers, in the booklet, there's only one special move shown per character.
It doesn't include all of them.
The dossiers shown in the game, there's a whole section of dossiers, give you some information. I went there during the first play to try to look at some movesets. It didn't give me one. It told me their favorite food.
Right. Nothing helpful for the game.
I forgot about that.
Just terrible geographical information and when they were born and how much they weigh.
That is so funny to me. That is the best troll I've ever heard.
It's not good.
Because you're like, oh, finally, I'm going to get some real meat of like what I need to do in this game. It's going to help me out. And it's literally a Rickroll.
One thing I was intrigued by.
Bones.
Not for long.
Oh,
not the character.
You're gonna say overkills.
We'll talk about some of the characters. The fact that you can
stats?
do some customization.
No, you can't even feel it. You can't even feel
I'm not saying it's implemented well. It's not.
Well, then don't give them props.
But I love that concept of having a little bit of like strategy and RPG elements in there. If you could feel that and it be impactful. And you could tweak it like partway through. Oh, I'm about to fight someone who I really need to focus on using my special to get through them. So I'm going to like reallocate some points and like special my way through this fight. But then, oh, this next guy hits really hard. I better give myself some more defense stats. And, like it was an engaging thing that you could feel and it mattered. It could have been really cool. It wasn't that at all. Although you say you don't feel it, there are cheat codes that let you increase your stat thresholds higher and higher.
Okay.
For those of us that were still struggling a little bit on easy, that's a way to don't judge me, I'm bad at fighters. That's a way to make it even easier. And by the time you start outweighing your opponents with the total amount of stats you have, you really do feel the difference on those numbers, at least at the more extremes.
I don't like the concept of the customization thing, even if it's done well, because
you're a fighting game purist.
Yes.
You want them to be tuned before going in,
exactly.
Before going into the game.
Don't ask me to do that.
Right. Don't ask me to do your job.
It's not an RPG. I'm not getting paid for this. I need it to be set in stone.
You get paid to play RPGs?
I need it to be set in stone. I want Bones to be slower but powerful because he has a gun. And Chuck Taylor's, and I need his jump to be weak because why would a skeleton? I need these things to be decided. I don't need all the characters to more or less be the same in terms of. I don't like the idea of a customization.
Yeah, it is. It did feel like almost every single character was the same, regardless of if they had a gun or a sword. By the way, every one of them almost has some kind of weapon, but it doesn't change the fundamental gameplay. Everyone, their special is pretty much a projectile
Fireball.
or two. And that operate the same, and then a like up close throw move or two. But I do think it's important to mention. I don't know about important to mention, but we should mention there is a fatality-like system called overkills.
Overkill.
But it is the worst implementation of this. Mortal Kombat, it's already hard for me to accomplish these. But in this game, here are the rules. Do you want to know all of them?
It's so bad. I do.
You must finish an opponent with a specific strike associated with the opposing character, with the opponent. So it's not based on your character. So every character you face, there will be a different moveset that you need to accomplish to be able to do the overkill on them, which is insane. Right. Secondly, both characters must be grounded. So if you're jumping or they are jumping, then you cannot proc it. Mm-hmm. Third, it must be the final hit of the final round, okay? Which is fine. Fourth, it only works on medium difficulty or higher. So you cannot even do these overkills on easy difficulty, meaning Kenny never saw one. And then number 5, it can't be done in quest mode. In the primary mode that you were playing, you cannot use these abilities.
Yeah. It's so bad.
What I'm hearing, that all sounds like a lot and complex. No, don't be fooled. That's like the easy way for them to put fatalities in the game because Mortal Kombat had it. It's like the lazy way to put it in the game. To put like all these weird boundaries around it. And dude, the more we talk about it, the more I'm like, they literally just looked at the market and said, give us a little bit of that, a little bit of that. There's literally a stage in this game that has the dragon head on the back door that looks like the Mortal Kombat logo, except there's 2 heads instead of 1. And then they had the like risque character with Dominique.
It's
like
the dominatrix.
Come on, man.
We have talked about how frustrating this is before. And lots of games do this, but I still hate it. If you play the easy mode, you get to the last boss, and they basically say,
try harder.
Nope, come back, try again on a higher difficulty.
Why add that?
You can't actually complete the game. They rob you of finishing it. But then you do go back and play it on a normal difficulty, and you get to the final boss and kill him, and you're like, finally, there's going to be some payoff. Nothing. Credits, just roll.
Does it say come back and do it on hard mode?
Doesn't say congratulations. Maybe it does, but it's so short and in passing. It's just game's just over.
Because they didn't expect anyone to play it that long.
No, it's for replay value. It's good.
You think there was a competitive scene for Double Dragon 5 back in the day?
I think they're still around. I think they play at PAX.
You think there's 2 people out there that really love it? Twins named Lemmy and Carl.
And Jimmy?
Stop leaving Billy out.
Aged.
I think it's always risky to base a video game off of another not IP, I guess, but off of a different thing. Again, This one was based not entirely off of the video game series thus far, like the number V would lead you to believe, but based off of a television series that did not stand the test of time.
Right. I think if the show had been wildly successful, this would have been a great idea. You know, if this was a Pokemon situation where people were on board, like,
or Home Improvement,
it makes sense to tie your stuff together. But
Home Improvement
when your show is bad and lasts for a season and a half, like, it's not happening.
You've essentially got a spin-off game based on a series that is based on a video game, which
based
is
on an animated series, but yeah.
Like, anyone involved in that should have known this would have been a failure. Anyone should have known that was a terrible idea.
And here's the thing. You've got to jump on it while the fire's hot, so you can't wait to see how well this is going to go. So, like, I get, like, even when Jurassic Park came out, we played games, and they all came out when the movie released or right after the movie released. You got to strike.
Here's a sad reality. If we went back in time and told developers in 1994, hey, in 2023, we're going to be talking about your game, and it may not hold up, they're not going to care.
No.
They're not. I mean, some people are, but in the moment, what's driving these games is we want to, maybe that's not completely true in all cases with all developers, but like the goal is they're just trying to be doing what is doing at the moment.
And I don't know if anyone's ever thought of this before, but it just came to mind. I think that some developers, publishers, don't care about the quality of the game, just if it sells good. I don't know. That might sound crazy, but
yeah, we've probably never said that.
I don't know if and that might be a thing that some developers
it would be easier to understand if you explained it with time travel.
Okay.
Game sucks.
Yeah. It's not. You can't.
I mentioned it already, but I really don't like the concept of an established series that was doing well, that was one of the best in the beat 'em up genre, deciding to do something else. I don't like it, and it's a bad idea.
It's risky. I'm sure there are genres that have redefined themselves and worked. There are other times when it's been forced. You talk like games that went from 2D to 3D and it ends up being functionally a different game, even though, and so like, I don't know. I understand why they would want to, but it didn't work here, regardless of whether it should or could have worked.
What it is,
either way,
is that some of the bigger names, like even Street Fighter, did this, had spin-off crossover games that were forgotten and not great, but it didn't tarnish the name, because they didn't allow it. This, they named it Double Dragon 5. It's not Double Dragon game. What
I
came
think-
after
yeah.
this is my question. Did they continue? Was it still successful? Probably not. No one talks about this series today.
I think the biggest sin is probably in the naming, because if you would have gone with something else, we could have moved over it. We could have moved on,
spin-off
whatever. But yeah, right.
Yeah,
From
Double
a different
Dragon
company,
Fighter,
like
The Shadow Falls. You're fine.
It's really easy to do, and they should listen to us with time travel, but they
Idiots.
didn't. And the thing is, you base it off of a television show that doesn't succeed, that's going to age poorly, but you can still do well on other fronts. And I don't know if they do hit it on other fronts. I will say one thing that I think that is done well from the cartoon is that the visuals that you're getting are a very cartoony aesthetic. So it's not going with some of the rugged Double Dragon flair, but giving us a cartoon feel. And I thought it worked.
I don't mind how this game looks.
I think
It looks fine. All of my beef is with how it plays.
and I think it looks hideous. I think
Why do you think that?
I think it looks awkward. I think the backdrops are the best part about it, but the characters move stupid.
Yeah.
I think the look of the characters is poorly done. Their proportions, they tried, they did the realistic thing, which is fine, but it didn't look good.
Some of the animations are like true knockoffs, like the engulfed in flame and falling back thing. Like 100% is just like, yeah, you can tell they were just ripping Street Fighter at this point. Definitely some things that didn't look as good as others. The shadows under the characters are pretty poor, but
Flickering
like
the
those
whole
aren't going to
time.
be super dynamic in a game at this point. But I don't know. I don't think it's completely ugly. I'm more in Dustin's camp. I think the characters look fine. I wish there was a little more diversity in like the characters themselves and how they played. And
Yes, we've talked about
they sort of tried to do that. You had that one guy that kind of shot rockets, and his special move like turned him into a
Countdown?
kind of explosive airplane thing, but like it didn't. There's no character to these characters.
Exactly.
I wanted
There's no identity to them. They just made a bigger roster, being like, look at all the characters you can play in this game, and yeah, they look different. And Bones' design is fantastic. Let's be real, but and I will say the levels look pretty good, but that's as far as I'll go with it. But the characters have no identity, and Kenny, that's so important for a fighting game. Like, I agree.
Right.
You have to have your main, and they have to be fundamentally different, and you have to identify with their moveset.
Right,
who
they got to be you.
Yeah.
You got to really want the range on Dulcim or the really fast moveset of, I'm going to forget other names. Chun-Li?
Chucky?
Chun-Li, bro.
Chun-Li.
Chun-Li.
You
You gotta like your legs.
I think the graphics are better than the music. The graphics did better than the music. Some people, I think, enjoyed the music here. I didn't really like any of it, and none of it was memorable.
No. And again, I don't have a reference point for the series, so I don't know if they're reusing anything. But
Felt fine to me. I did find the sound effects a little off.
Very bad, very muffled, very like sometimes even the victory sound that a character makes, you can't even make out what they're actually saying. That's really
literally,
good.
it sounds like something like that. It sounded like the SNES version sounded like it had the Sega sound chip. It was like degraded times 10. They had downloaded it, re-uploaded it, and downloaded it 20 times.
It does,
and then that's what it sounded like.
We've mentioned it a handful of times, but there are other games in this series that are not this, though. So, like, it's not like if you enjoyed this game, you're going to enjoy the other ones in the series. We've said it. The majority of these games are side-scrolling beat-em-ups. And so the first one was released in the arcades in 1987, and then for the NES, then we've got two Double Dragons with Double Dragon 2, The Revenge, and Double Dragon 3, The Rosetta Stone, which I don't know why.
What?
Yeah?
That's so funny.
Yeah? There are
Sure.
also a variety of handheld titles as well. I think the most recent release, I think there's one that's releasing this year.
What?
Yeah,
So,
Double
wait.
Dragon Gaiden, Rise of the Dragons.
Ain't nobody playing
this is
that.
still around, Nolan. I know it wasn't on your radar at all, and you're like, where did this go? It's still around. Double Dragon's not dead.
That it is dead. It's still around. It's dead though. Come on,
both
Kenny.
of those things are true.
Those you can't have. I mean,
May not be wildly popular in mainstream, but they're still making games with the title.
Street Fighter 6 is like the biggest game ever. It just came out. That's still around. Double Dragon, no one's looking for
Mortal
the next
Kombat's
drop.
still around. Mortal Kombat 1.
Mortal Kombat 1 just came out is
soon to be released.
Hype. This is not hype. Hold on. What's Double Dragon the Rosetta Stone? Do you learn? Do you learn in that?
Yeah, it's a language. It's a language game.
A language learning.
No, it's
module.
just a side-scrolling beat 'em up.
Yeah. Okay.
I haven't played it, but maybe we should.
Maybe we should.
I think it's set in Egypt or based in Egypt or has some
Ooh.
kind of connection there, so that's kind of the
Got it.
drive. If you do want a copy for your Super Nintendo of Double Dragon 5, then you're going to be paying $15 for it used or loose. You're going to be paying $200 for it new.
Let's talk about what you could buy instead.
Double Dragon 3, the Rosetta Stone. Probably.
Like
10 copies.
4 hamburgers.
That's better.
Wait, whoa.
What kind of hamburgers you
Those
buying?
are expensive burgers.
Yeah, I shell out for high quality.
Let's have
hamburgers.
Gouda on that.
Final thoughts.
At the end of each of our episodes, we determine whether or not the game gets our vote for New Game Plus status, which is our general thumbs up or thumbs down. It does require 2/3 of the vote to swing one way or the other. Kenny, what did you think about this video game?
I know you guys have given it a little bit of a hard time, but something about the ethos of this game really resonated with me, and so I have adopted the way of the dragon, in my heart. And so let me just quote one of the characters directly out of the game to summarize my feelings. Just quoting Billy Lee directly. The code of the dragon prevents me from enjoying this too much.
Okay.
He says that?
Yeah, that's his quote at the end after he beats somebody up.
Basically,
yeah.
Let me just explain. The Code of the Dragon, they're not supposed to fight each other. You're not supposed to fight. That's the last resort, which is crazy because then they come into this fighting game and they're just fighting everybody.
Sure, no one cares about the lore
Yes,
reason,
I do.
But I'm just trying to say I did not enjoy this game too much. I was afraid it was going to get ragged on even harder than it was, and I was ready to come in here to
Just
defend it a little bit, just because it's not like a hot steaming pile. It's just generically bad, but it is not a good game, so no New Game Plus.
The best part of the game is the start screen. I think it starts off really strong and then it just goes downhill from there. Fighting games are only as good as their handling, as their roster, as their mechanics. And this one falls short on all three of those things. The first episode of the show was better. And so I would suggest not playing this game and instead going and watching the first episode of Double Dragon. I do not give it.
You said the opening screen's the best thing, but the bad guy's face mask is so terrible.
Yeah,
it's the worst.
Thanks for being distracted on one thing that I said while I was trying to get out the rest of my stuff.
Yeah, because I've never done that before ever.
You've never done that before? Correct.
No.
Nolan, what did you think about your first Double Dragon game?
Oh no, I forgot.
I'll say that I'm still open to the series. I'm not letting this scare me away from it because I can't even take this game seriously. I don't know what went behind it or the motive. Y'all are saying it was to make money, but I don't even know who cared about this show or enough. I don't know how much money they actually made on this. But it got made regardless, and it's for some reason called the 5th game in the series. But I'm still looking forward to playing a true Double Dragon experience, and this game's awful in every way. It's awful, and if you want to play a fighting game, go play Street Fighter 2. That's the answer to this episode. I don't care about this game. You shouldn't care about it either. You'll miss nothing by not playing it.
Double Dragon v. The Shadow Falls is not New Game Plus certified, but what did you think? We had 18% on our YouTube poll that said, yes, it's actually worth playing today.
They just saw Double Dragon and said, oh, yeah, for sure, that's going to be a banger. They didn't know it was a fighting game.
23% said no, go play something else, and 59% have never played it before. I would have been very bummed if I was a Double Dragon fan back in the day, waiting for the next release, and it came out, and it was 5, and I rented it, and it was this.
Yes.
I'm sure that happened to a lot of people.
A lot of people played along and wrote in this week. A few just didn't even deign to give this game much commentary. Here are a few quick ones. Official WNBA said, this was my first time playing along with the game this week. I should have waited. Jesse Helbig said, Double Dragon 5 sucks.
Yeah.
Clint said, Double Dragon 5, more like, or Double Dragon V, more like Double Dragon L. Sasser said, this is a bland knockoff of Street Fighter 2, plain and simple. Absolutely nothing stands out about this game. The combat drags out because there's no clear concept of range and your opponents are damage sponges. The character sprites are fairly diverse but uninspiring when you realize that all you really have are 4 or 5 movesets that are basically shared between multiple characters. Movement is very stiff. I could probably go on, but why waste my time? Steer clear from this one.
Hey, Double Dragon V? More like Double Dragon P.
Sam's Club Hot Dog said, normally I'd take a couple of days to play a game and then commentate on it, but there's no need for this one. You can experience everything there is with this game in just a few minutes. For the popularity of the Double Dragon franchise, this one feels very uninspired and lazily made. There's basically only one mode, and the characters pretty much all do the same 2 moves. Now, I won't lie, I did have a little bit of fun playing, and I think the graphics are nice, at least because there weren't any conflicting visuals. The music wasn't bad, and it was at least somewhat smooth to play. But honestly, there's nothing special about this game. If you want to specifically play a 1994 fighting game that's not Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat, play Killer Instinct, not Double Dragon 5.
Hey, the Shadow Falls, more like the Shadow Balls.
If you ball, isn't that a good thing?
It is a good thing.
Balls.
Also, you can't say P and have it be short for P and think it's funny.
Not like peeing on the game, like
we did it.
Whizzing.
Kenny just doesn't know how to spell the actual that. Yeah, uninspired. Oh, I will say it did make me think. Anytime that I play the game on the day we find the game, the day we record the previous episode, and then take pretty much my full show notes that day is not a good sign.
That's a bad. Well, it's either a really bad sign or a really good one because you couldn't put it down. Because you've done that too, where you've like beaten the game in an hour, and you're like, dude.
I don't know. Finally, Super Gamer Guy said, the Double Dragon series has unfortunately had a number of mediocre to downright horrendous titles, and the game of the week is no exception. Stiff controls, uninspired 90s punk visuals, and a sterile soundtrack leaves this fighting game with nothing to stand out among its peers. This is clearly a bare bones cash grab meant to capitalize on the franchise's success, as so many games in the series were at the time. If you want a better Double Dragon fighting game, check out the Neo Geo title for some more flair.
Interesting. Huh. I don't know if I want to, though. I think I'm not going to do
I have heard that it's better tuned.
It looks better. I'm looking at it now. It definitely looks better, but that's not a surprise on arcade.
Thank you for playing along with us and sending in your thoughts on the Retro Game of the Week. You can do that each and every week. Just send your thoughts to ngppodcast@gmail.com or hop into our commentary channel on Discord, and we'll try to include your commentary on next week's episode. But for now, we're setting aside Double Dragon 5, The Shadow Falls, to never think about it again, and we are not randomly selecting our next Retro Game of the Week.
Aww.
You might
the
have...
relationship I have with the randomizer is a very special thing. I don't like when we deviate.
Hey, it has not been doing us any favors recently. I think it's punishing us for
it needs
our
break.
summer pool party.
It was mad about the summer pool party, and now it's getting back at us.
So we are putting the Retro Master List in timeout, and we are going to be doing another Redux episode. Many years ago, we played a game that was a 2000 first-person shooter developed and published by Rare for the Nintendo 64, and that game is... Perfect Dark.
I'm nervous about this one, this Redux in particular.
Yeah.
The other ones I was pretty fine with, right? I kind of knew what I was
getting into, right?
Yeah.
This is the one that I'm actually most interested in returning to because
Same.
we kind of knew Earthworm Jim. We kind of knew Half-Life. Perfect Dark was a weird one, and we played it at a weird time.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about it more next week, but we played it, I believe, all without N64 controllers, and I think that makes a big impact on the gaming experience.
That and just... I was not as good at analyzing things as I am now, and I think we made a lot of people mad with that one actually. Which probably whatever, but I'm very interested to go.
Sometimes we've revisited stuff assuming we were going to change our minds, and then realized that we haven't changed our mind, and so there's no guarantee here that an outcome is given in either direction.
This might be a double down on us disliking people's favorite games. So
a double down 5.
Find a copy of Perfect Dark for the Nintendo 64 and play it along with us this week.
Join us in Discord. We've mentioned many times that in there you can find the Question of the Week channel where we want your input, but you can also find the Commentary channel where you can leave your thoughts on the game of the week, and we'll read it on the show. I also want to give a shout out to a couple people that joined our Discord recently this week. Frank DRG and Stranger7. Thanks for checking us out, and I hope it inspires more people to do that. Discord.gg/NewGamePlus.
You can also go to patreon.com and support New Game Plus on an ongoing basis to give us a vote of confidence in continuing to bring retro gaming entertainment your way every single week. You'll be joining a large group of people who already say, more NGP please, including our large list of producers that are Adam, Alex, Marley, and Anton, Ben, Big Dude, Brunk, DH Bowser, Ellis, Fishy, Francesca, Gimbin, Harold, J. Robert, Jake, Jared, Joey, Jordan, Justin, Kenny's Beard, Glenn, Knick-Knack, Corey, Levi, Maxima, Not Enough Dog, Pedro, Replicated Flame, Sage, Sarah, Shade, Shauna, Psycho Mantis, Thomas, Turtle, Siegfried, and Zion. Thank you so much. We want to say a big thank you to Scotty for upgrading his patronage, and to Alex the All Right for becoming a producer for the very first time. And of course, to our directors, you are the special move that makes our fighting game worth playing. I don't know, but we love you. Brojim, Garlisle, Super Hybrid, and Miss Muso, thank you so much for supporting the show.
You can follow us on our social media. That's Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, and YouTube. All of those links are in the show notes. Listen directly on any podcast provider of your choice, and make sure you subscribe so that you are the first to get new NGP episodes. While you're at it, please leave a kind rating and review. Our video episode was edited by our friend Dylan. Our audio episode was edited and produced by our friend Dan Willett. Join us next week as we once again play Perfect Dark. Until then, I'm still... Jilly Lee, what were we saying?
Lemmy.
I'm still Billy.
I am Bones.
And this has been New Game Plus.